fractions. Just hearing the word can make a lot of us break out in a cold sweat, right? It brings back memories of confusing math classes. But what if I told you that all those rules aren't that complicated? Today, we're going to crack the code on fractions for good. Does this question hit home for you? Yeah, you're not alone. For so many of us, fractions really do feel like some kind of secret language with rules that make no sense. But here's the thing about codes. Every single one of them can be cracked, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the fraction frustration, just to get it out there. Then we'll get into the two secret weapons, the common denominator rule and the flip and multiply rule. After that, I'm going to give you a fraction master key that puts it all together. And finally, we'll see where this stuff actually shows up in real life. Let's do this. Okay, first up, the fraction frustration. Look, if you've ever felt totally lost with fractions, that's completely normal. Admitting that they can be tough is actually the very first step to getting good at them. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's like they're a different language. And once you understand the code, the rest of math starts to fall into place. And it's so true. Fractions are one of those building blocks. Once you finally crack this code, you'll be amazed at how many other parts of math suddenly start to make sense. All right, it's time to grab our first key for cracking this code. We're starting with the single most important rule for adding and subtracting fractions, and that's the common denominator. But first, a super quick refresher on the lingo. The numerator, that's the top number. It's just the number of pieces you're talking about. So if you've got 3/8 of a pizza, the numerator is 3. Why? Because you have 3 slices. Simple as that. And the denominator is that bottom number. Now this one is crucial. It tells you how many equal parts the whole thing was cut into. For our pizza with 8 total slices, the denominator is 8. This number, this is the star of the show when we're adding and subtracting. And this brings us to what I like to call the golden rule. When you add or subtract fractions, the denominators absolutely must be the same. Period. Think about it. You can't add 2 apples and 3 oranges and say you have 5 apple oranges, right? You have to call them pieces of fruit. Well, the common denominator is just like that. It's the common unit. So here's the 3-step process for adding. It's so simple. First, you find that common denominator. That's the hard part, and it's not even that hard. Once you have that, you just add the top numbers, the numerators, and the denominator, it just stays the same. After all, the size of the slices didn't change. And you know what the best part is? Subtraction is the exact same idea. You find a common denominator, you subtract the top numbers, and you keep that denominator the same. It's really that straightforward. Okay, deep breath. We've handled addition and subtraction. Now we're moving on to multiplication and division. And you're going to love this because these two are actually even easier. For real. You know that whole common denominator thing we just talked about? Well, for multiplication, you can throw it right out the window. You don't need it at all. You just multiply the top numbers straight across, and then you multiply the bottom numbers straight across. That's it. No, seriously, that is the entire rule. And division has a famous little trick that makes it a piece of cake. Keep, change, flip. You keep the first fraction exactly as it is.
You change the division sign into a multiplication sign, and you flip the second fraction upside down. And just like that, you've turned a scary division problem into the easy multiplication problem we just learned. Okay, this right here, this is probably the biggest aha moment for fractions. If you remember one thing, make it this. For adding and subtracting, you must find a common denominator. But for multiplying and dividing, you do not. Getting this one different street will solve half your problems right there.
So, we've cracked the individual codes. We've got the keys. Now it's time to put them all on one keychain. This next slide is your ultimate cheat sheet. This is the master key that's going to unlock any fraction problem that comes your way. And here it is, your fraction master key. Everything we've talked about all in one spot. You can see addition and subtraction are a team. They both need that common denominator. And multiplication and division are their own team. This is it. This is the one-page guide to solving pretty much any fraction problem. So we've got the master key, we know the rules, but why should we even care? I mean, who uses this stuff anyway? Well, let's take a look at where these things pop up when you're not in a math class. And this is why it matters. You ever had to cut a recipe in half? That's fractions. Ever split a dinner bill with friends? You're using fractions. Trying to measure a piece of wood for a project? Yep, that's fractions too. This secret code is actually the language of everyday life. So you see, learning this stuff isn't just about passing a test. It's about getting a really powerful tool that helps you make sense of the world. You haven't just memorized a bunch of rules, you've learned a new way to think. So now that you've officially cracked the code, what are you going to solve next?